Hey everybody, Aaron Cowan, Sage Dynamics. In this video I want to talk a little bit about handgun accuracy for self-defense purposes at extended distances. One of the most aggravating aspects of self-defense training, self-defense practice, is the fact that we can't reliably predict, nor should we attempt to predict or presuppose, the distance at which a self-defense shooting would take place at, because there's just no way to really establish any kind of bright line distance saying, okay, it's probably going to happen at 3 feet, 10 feet, 25 feet. And while there are a lot of parroted statistics out there, almost all the reliable data that I've seen comes from law enforcement. Law enforcement has a different context, if you will, than your average CCW shooting. While data on citizen self-defense shootings is collected by like the Bureau of Justice Statistics, it's not collected to the degree of detail that we're going to see from like the FBI's law enforcement officers killed and assaulted. So some of those statistics that are just wildly thrown out, like 3 feet, 3 seconds, 3 rounds, have no real basis in reality unless you're looking at a very small sample group of information. That doesn't mean it can't happen at that distance. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be proficient at that distance. But you also need to understand that proficiency needs to go from most likely to least likely and account for realistic distances that you encounter in your everyday life. So just thinking about distance, there's 3 general categories that we can look at when we think about most likely to least likely distances for self-defense shooting or defense of a third-party shooting. There's profit crime. Someone's trying to rob you, be it in the public space or maybe even a home invasion or a surprise burglary type thing. Then we have a personal crime. Somebody's trying to hurt you because of who you are, what race you are, what creed you are, the shirt you're wearing, what team you support, so on and so forth. The motivation there isn't criminal profit so much as it is injuring you for who you are or what you represent. And then of course there's a random act of violence where you may not be the initial target, but you are present when someone is attempting to harm or kill other people. Now in regards to a profit crime, going most likely to least likely, we have a little bit better of a degree to predict a general distance at which that might take place. If I'm going to physically rob you, then I have to get close enough to you to take from you that which I'm robbing, and I also have to be close enough to actually talk to you. So that's definitely a factor in that distance. While a personal crime could occur at just generally any distance, and I think if you look at some of the anecdotal evidence that's out there, personal crimes have occurred at greater distances. Most likely to least likely, depending on the skill level of the person who means you harm, they may close into a closer distance. So again, we're still looking at these pretty close distances. I'm not going to bright line it. I'm going to say probably inside of 25 yards, but I wouldn't try to get more specific than that. And even 25 is a hard number that I don't really care for. Random act of violence, depending on the size of the environment that you're in, it could occur at a very great distance. You think about your average mall or a super Walmart or a super Target or whatever Target's XL size stores are called, a Best Buy, one of your big box stores, a parking lot, a concert venue. The distance can be very, very great indeed. So when we work on our own personal practice with the skills in the handgun, we need to have an application for that, an understanding of what accuracy may be required for these extended distances. When I take marksmanship, I focus on 2 categories, and that's precision and practical accuracy. Precision accuracy would be the application of rounds to the exact place that you want them to go within 1 inch, within a very small margin of error, because we have to account for some margin of error because we are human and we're not machines and we're not able to do 100% reliable repeatability, consistency, but we can come very close. Then there is precision accuracy, which is accuracy to an area roughly the size of a critical area of the human body. As a self-defense instructor, everything for me always comes back to hitting critical areas of the body for accuracy. So for precision accuracy, I might be trying to hit the brainstem, and my practical accuracy margin of error would be the cranial vault itself, the brain mass. If I'm going high thoracic, my precision accuracy would be the heart, whereas my margin of error would be that high thoracic cavity. On a target, the targets that I use have a very reduced size A zone. My precision accuracy is going to be inside that A zone at all distances. In the head, I'm going to try to keep it in that general triangle region at all distances. My practical accuracy, my margin of error for practical accuracy is going to be roughly 8.5 by 11 inches on this target A B zone, if you will. For the head, it's going to be the mass of the cranial vault itself at all distances. I'm not going to widen my margin of error just because my distance increases. But at all distances, I want to be able to maintain hits in my A zone for precision, and the margin of error would be the practical accuracy region. In my own personal practice, I practice precision accuracy and practical accuracy at all distances. Generally, the difference between the two isn't so much round placement as it is actual speed of cadence. This is a little subjective because it is my skill level, but here's a look at a few general distances from concealment on target, looking for that precision accuracy. Pay special close attention to the cadence in relation to the round placement. Now I would consider that reasonably well placed based on the cadence and the distances I was able to achieve it at. Obviously, the further back I got, the slower I had to shoot, relatively speaking. I always want to shoot as fast as possible, but I cannot give up any of my accuracy in order to gain additional speed unless I'm willing to, like we're talking about, go to a slightly larger point of aim that's still in a critical area of the body, and that would be that practical accuracy. Your 8.5 by 11 inch printer paper is a really good representation of most of the high thoracic cavity, which is a place that doesn't really respond well to bullets. It's not necessarily going to be an instant stop when we talk human anatomy, but it's going to lead them to incapacitation or maybe even a psychological stop much faster than getting really, really wide hits. There's a school of thought of a lot to the everywhere, where as long as I'm just hitting this guy all over his body, eventually he's gonna stop being a threat. And that is true. However, we don't have a way to reliably predict how long that would take depending on the round placement. Whereas if I start putting rounds in the high thoracic cavity, especially if I'm hitting the heart or I'm hitting brain matter, I can expect to a certain degree a much faster incapacitation, medically speaking. Now here's a subjective look. Again, this is my accuracy on paper, accounting for that practical accuracy. The cadence at close distance really didn't change from my cadence going for precision accuracy, but as I got back, I was able to maintain roughly a faster cadence of fire on my target and still get really good incapacitory hits, which is something that I definitely want. Now, we love metrics in shooting, even in self-defense shooting. We love to talk about distance, we love to talk about accuracy, and we love to talk about time, because those are three measurable metrics that we can apply to our shooting ability to see if we are improving. And those things are very important. The aggravating fact, again, is how kind of I preface this video, is we can't reliably predict the distances. We can't really necessarily predict the times either. A situation may be spontaneous, or it may develop over 30, 40, 50 seconds, or a longer period of time. But distance is something based on our personal life and where we habitually go, something that we can more reliably look at. If you think about the average size of your home, what's the longest shot you'd have to take in your house? 10 meters, 15 meters, 25 meters, greater than that? Whatever that distance is, you need to be proficient at that distance, because it's the maximum distance you'd have to take a shot inside of your own house. And then let's think about the places we regularly go. What about your gas stations, where you shop, where you grocery shop, the movie theater you go to? What is the longest distance, relatively speaking, or I should say approximately, that you'd have to take in those places? Just looking at a few of the places that I habitually go to, gas station, shopping mall, grocery store. The grocery store aisles are anywhere to 30 or 40 meters depending on the store and how old the store is, and there's a system there, and they tend to be pretty consistent in the same brand from store to store to store to store to store. Some are more modern, some are older. You're going to see some bigger differences. Those distances might not factor into personal self-defense, but they may factor into a personal crime or defense of a third party if you choose to get involved, or a random act of violence. Longer distance shots have been made. It's always something we like to talk about, but when I visit ranges, public ranges, and I see people shooting, I see a lot of shooters that are up there at the 3 and the 5 and the 7, maybe even the 10. There is somewhat of a resurgence among the shooting community of shooting further out. The B8 is real popular right now, and I love to see that. If you're not one of those people who is comfortable shooting at 25 yards, you got to get there. And I use 25 as kind of a hardline distance, but inside of 25 is pretty realistic. Granted, you should be able to still maintain that same degree of accuracy going back to realistic distances as far as 50 yards in that practical zone. Probably not going to be able to do it very fast, but you should still be able to get the hits, and it should be a tool, to use that cliche, a tool in your toolbox. I'm Aaron Count with Sage Dynamics. Train accordingly.